class for brick stitch wreath earrings. And here's the project we're going to be making today. This class is recorded, and there will be a replay available on michaels.com/classes. You can visit that website, click on jewelry, and it will show you all the recent jewelry recorded classes. So you can catch the replay there. And during class, if you have questions, you can drop them in the chat, and I'll try to answer them during class. And so this class is, once again, the beaded wreath earrings. It's a beginner brick stitch class, and it's on a ring component. We're going to add a one layer, a second layer, and charms. Okay, and I'm going to switch now to my other camera so I can show you guys all of the supplies, and we'll get started. All right, so here's an up close view. I'm going to let that camera come into focus for a second. There we go. Here's an up close view of a finished earring pair. And it's an easy technique. We're going to start with size 8 seed beads around the ring and then build an embellishment with size 11s and 6s. And I did get a question before class about the size 11s. Can I use 10s? Yeah. Always, you can use 11 or 10, and if you need to adjust the count a little bit, we can talk through that when we get to that part. And you can use the charm of your choice, any charm you like, and a jump ring and ear wires. So here's the materials in their packaging. These are the rings that I used, starting with those. And you can use other rings that you have. Your counts may or may not be different depending on the size of the ring, but these are the ones that I have from Michaels. You'll need 2 packs because they come with 3 different finishes inside. And so you'll see there's a silver, copper, and a gold. So if you get 2 packs, you can make 3 pairs of earrings. And the charms I'm using are, the ones shown on the sample are these really cute owls. And again, I bought 2 because they come with 1 of each color. And so if you want to make a pair, you'll need 1 from each card. And then I also saw these. I have a colorway today that I was going to experiment with that I thought would be easier to see on the camera. And so when I saw these, I thought, how cool with the pop of color there. So you'll see me pull these in later. And the thread, I'm using the 0.06 Wildfire. And the size 10 beading needles that I'm using, they're the ones that you guys have seen me use before in class there. Are these. And precision scissors. These are just regular sharp scissors. And you also may need, or you will need, tools to open and close jump rings. So my preference there is a flat nose plier and a bent nose plier. Okay, and that is everything, I think. Oh, and the beads. You can't forget the beads. All right, so the first color I'm going to be working with is this turquoise, size 8. And let me grab my tube of it right here. It's a really beautiful opaque turquoise. And then I thought, just so that it'd be really easy to see, that I'd pull in the red 11s. And last but not least, there's this really gorgeous yellow. It's this bright pop yellow here. I thought that would be fun. Okay, so I'm going to clear these. And here, you guys can see them. I'm going to start with the rings. So one thing you'll notice right away is that there's 2 jump rings. 2 jump rings are attached to each of these rings. I'm going to work with the silver. You'll go ahead and remove these jump rings, but hang on to them. When you're attaching the charms later, most of the charms come with a jump ring, but it may not be one that matches the metal finish of the ring. And if you'd like to match the finish, you can swap the jump ring that comes with the charm for this one. So I'm just removing the jump rings. I'm going to set those aside. Okay. And moving to thread, I'm gonna cut some thread here. In the instructions, it says to cut about 30 inches. That's the minimum. If you're new to beading, give yourself a little more thread to work with. I find that for beginners, having a little extra length of thread is helpful. So I'm going to cut 36 inches, which for me is a little less than, both of my arms outstretched. So I hold one in one hand and the end in the other and just measure that way. And a size 10 beading needle here. And step one is super easy. We're just going to bring the thread through the ring and then tie a double knot. And in the instructions, it says to leave about a 7-inch tail, and that's great. That's probably more than you need. About 5 inches, 5 to 7 inches is great. I always err on the side of more thread than less, right? It's easier. And so now I need to thread a needle. And so the long end of my thread, I'm going to grab these flat nose pliers and use them to flatten the thread. And I'm not pulling here, I'm just flattening to make it easier to thread my needle. It should go right through. And pull down, fold over. And so starting with size 8 beads. So the opaque turquoise. And you'll need 28 of the size 8 beads. String 1 first. And so everyone has a different approach to brick stitch. This is what I like doing, but there's a lot of different ways to start brick stitch. But what I do is I take just one bead at first. Remember, we've got our double knotted thread here. This is the tail, this is the working thread. I'm bringing the tail thread through that bead that I just added. And then I pull them apart, the working and tail threads, pulling those apart. So the knot hides inside of that size 8 seed bead. And now I'm just going to start the brick stitch. And pick up one bead, go behind the component. And what I like to do is press down. If you've got one of these soft beading mats, it helps. And pull tight. The bead will sit next to the other bead and on top of the component. And then just go ahead and come up through that bead that you just added. Get my tail thread out of the way there. So there's bead 1. And we're just going to repeat that all the way around. I'll do a few more stitches and then I'll switch to a sample that is ready to go so you guys don't have to watch me do this 27 times. But you'll repeat this step from here another 26 times for a total of 28 beads. And I do think I'll have time to show this a second time if anyone would like to see this start just one more time. So you guys can let us know in the chat. And if we have enough people that want to see it again, I'll do that. But see, I'm kind of going a little bit faster with each one. And you will too, as you're working. I'm just picking up a bead, going behind the component. Push down. And come up through the bead. And see how it it moves away sometimes. Don't worry about it. When you pull tight, it sits right back down. And there's one more. Whoops. I pulled this one in front of the other one. Easy to fix though. There we go. All right, so that step repeated all the way around. will give you that. Does anyone want to see starting it again? So if not, I'll go on to step 2. And we can always come back at the end and show this beginning again too. I saw one
Hi,
person.
Danielle. It's
Hey,
Carmi. Just want to let you know, yes, you know
Yes,
what,
so
a few people, if you could just do the start one more time, that would be awesome.
great. Okay, yeah. I'm going to set these 2 aside for now. We'll come back to them. And I'm going to remove these rings that come with, they come with the components. And I'm going to save them, especially on the copper and the gold finish, because I don't know if it's coming across on the screen, but the finish on these, they're like a little bit brushed and super unique. So I think they would be a challenge to match a jump ring to. So these are definitely ones you want to hang on to. Okay, so there's my ring. And now I'm going to get thread. And again, if you're a beginner, give yourself more than the 30 inches it says to in the instructions. Give yourself 36, 40 inches. I usually do a double wingspan. So both of my arms outstretched. And with about a 5 to 7 inch tail, you're going to tie a double knot onto the ring. So I'm coming through the ring here. And, you know, I'm just eyeballing the tail. All we're going to need this tail for later is to weave it in. So 5, 7 inches is totally fine. Here's one knot. Here's another knot. And now I need to thread a needle onto the long end of the thread. And so it's going to show you guys the trick for that, which is the trick from Meredith at Beadalon for threading needles, which has saved my life. Awesome. And yeah, just like that. Woohoo. And again, these are size 10 beading needles that I'm using. Okay, and so brick stitch. I like to start brick stitch this way. Lots of ways to start brick stitch, and there's no right or wrong way. Whatever you like to do is great. What I do is I bring one size 8 seed bead, or whatever size bead you're using, down the long thread, and I take the tail and bring it up through that bead that I just added, and then pull those 2 threads apart. Watch that knot disappear. It also gives you a chance to tighten your knot one more time. And so from here, super easy. You just pick up a bead and go under the ring, push down. Oops, I hit that wall of beads behind me. Did you guys hear that? Oops. And come up through that bead. And so the thread wraps right around the component. And I'll do that a few more times. So picking up a bead and go behind the component, push down. And come up through the bead with the thread coming in front of the component, just like that. So there's another one going behind. And if you're using these rings, I'll find the dimensions on these for you. You'll get 28 beads around. Let's see if I have that. It says you're about, let me get you a measurement. They're just a hair under an inch or so. But really the best way is to just go ahead and start stitching and adjust the count as needed if you're using a different component. All right, so I think I'll stop there and I'll switch back to the complete one. to show you guys the ending step. So here's where we were. The tail thread, we brought the tail thread up through that first bead, and then we just kept brick stitching all the way around. This is the working thread right here. And this is the last bead I added. And so one of the things you could do is you could join it, but for this design, what I did is I made a loop for the ear wire that goes from the last bead I added to the first one. And I'm going to use size 11s for that. If you're using 10s, that should be fine too. And this count of 4, we're about to add 4, that will work with 10s. I did test it with 10s and found that the only place where you might need to change it is down here. I'll show you when we get there. But for now, I'm just going to pick up 4 size 11s and come down through the first bead. So this is the one with the tail thread exiting. It's that first bead we added. And pull tight. And go ahead and ignore the tail for now. Just leave that there. And my thread is exiting that size 8 seed bead. It's in front of the component. So I'm going to go through the ring so that it's exiting from behind. And I'm going to adjust this so that it lays over that one. And now what I need to do is come up through this bead. So I'm turning it over and going through the bead. And when you pull tight, you'll see that a little loop forms with those 11s we just added. So the next thing I'm going to do is go through all the 11s, go through this 8, go around the component, and come back up through that 8. So that's what I'm doing now. So that's coming up through 2 of them and down to the next 2. All right. And then go through the 8. And now I'm going to go through the ring. Sorry, I'm really going to do that this time. Turn over and come back up through that 8. And pull tight. Okay. So now I have my working thread. This is my tail thread over here. Still just ignoring that. My working thread's here. And I've reinforced that loop here. So now we're going to add the embellishment around the side. Does everybody feel good about that step? Go ahead and just drop it in the chat. If I might have time at the end, I do have another sample and I could show that again just at the end when we get there. So I'm a right-handed person. So I'm going to work this next side over here. It doesn't matter which side you're working on. And you can decide at the end which side you'd like to be your front and the back. But I'm going to start working this side because I'm right-handed and that's just easier for me. And I'm going to bring in some 6s. And this is Citron. Nice bright color for this gloomy winter day that I'm having here. So it's a really happy color. Okay, go ahead and pick up an 11 and a 6. And notice on this piece that we've just made here, the bridges between each bead. So as we stitch these beads on and switch to the next bead, we created what's called a thread bridge that connects the two. And there's one between every bead. And so what I'm going to do is go through the second. It's this one here. That works really great with the counts that I'm using. When you're doing brick stitch with other counts and with other bead sizes, just experiment with it. And if you like it, great, keep going. And if you don't, pull it out and try a different placement. You can adjust that placement even after you've pulled the stitch through. Like say if I did that here and I decided, I don't like that one, I could always switch it. I could just go back through and undo it, but I'm thinking that looks good. And what I'm doing here is just tightening it up. So there we go. So now we're just going to alternate. So 11, 6, 11, 6, 11, 6. So I'm going to pick up another 11. And I'm going to go through the next thread bridge. And my goal is to get a total of 6 size 6 beads. It'll take me to right about here with 11s in between each one. This is all style. So when you are working on your own piece, try different things and see what you like. I'm going through that next thread bridge, picked up a 6. I'm going through the next one. Back to an 11. Next thread bridge. And then back to a 6. And the cool thing about this next layer of brick stitch is you'll notice sometimes the beads they'll look like that at first. And then watch what happens when you add the next one. I'm going to try to lay it flat so you guys can really see what's going on. See, it flattens. And then there's other styles of brick stitch out there I've seen where they purposely turn the beads on their sides by placing the next bead a little bit under it, by maybe say catching that thread bridge. Experiment with that too. So many fun things that you can create with these stitches that sky's the limit. I'm loving this yellow color. And again, it was called Citron. It has a little shine to it, like a marbly, shiny finish to it. Just going under each thread bridge with each new bead and coming back up through the same bead. So let's see, how many do I have? I need to do one more. And I'm starting to pay attention to where's my center point. So I'm using my needle. That's my center point here. So my goal is to have, the next step after this is to add a 6 and then 3 11s. I want that second of the 3 11s to be right there. And I'm eyeballing it, but it looks like it's going to work. With brick stitch, sometimes you do have to adjust placement to get things to line up. Just kind of how it is. But this one looks like it's working out. All right, there's another 11. Okay, and so in the handout, we are up to, let me just get the step we're on. We're about to start step 8. We're just finishing up step 7 and about to start step 8. So the first thing you're going to want to do is add 2 more 11s. And those are going to become the foundation for our loop here that the charm is going to sit on. So I'm going to go underneath here. There's 1. And fingers crossed, but it's centered. That's what I was looking for. So if it wasn't, all I'd have to do is just maybe move a few of these and readjust until it lined up. Add one more. With these little 11s are, I know it's hard to see, but I went ahead and got that one right next to the first one. So I've got 3 size 11 beads here. I'm going to pick up 4 beads. Again, that's 4 11s. Now come back up through that first one. So this is the first of the 3 11s that we added just now. So I picked up 4 and I'm going through the first one. And I made a little loop. I need to reinforce that loop and I need to get back over here. So to do that, I'm just going to go under that thread bridge again. So that's the one in between these 2 beads here, in between those 2 8s. And pull through. And I'm going to turn it over so I can see the bead on the other side. I'm trying to go through this 11 and all 4 of the 11s we just added. So going through as many as it will let me. I'll probably be able to get through just 2 here. And continue through the rest of them. Okay, when you get to the other side, go through that other 11. And then again, we're going underneath the thread bridge. It doesn't matter which one you choose. It will probably line up the same regardless of which thread bridge at this point here between these 2. And coming up. Now my goal here is to only go through 1 11. I don't want to go through my loop of 4 again. I just want to go through that 1 11. And so that's what I've done here. There we go. So now the next thing is just start adding the other side of our pattern. So the next will be to put a 6 on there. So the next available thread bridge, just going under that. Pull through. Here's an 11. It looks like time's good, so I'm going to just keep going and get to the end and show you weaving in and adding the charm, and then I still think we'll have time to go back and repeat. And so all I'm doing here is 6 11 6 11, going under the thread bridge and coming up through the next bead, or say through the bead I added. And as you get towards the end, this is where I start paying attention to placement again. I've got 4. I know I want to have 6 so that it's symmetry with the other side. So you can even kind of experiment with it. So say, and I do this a lot when I haven't made something before and I'm just, you know, for the first time making it, where do I want these beads to sit now? And if I wanted to use up space, if I had to, I could skip thread bridges. And that might be what I do here because I want to have that many, but I've got a lot of space here. So I think what I'll do is bring the next 11 over here. So you see, I had a choice. I could have gone there. I'm going to go up here. And there's the next one. Yeah, and that's going to make it line up perfectly. The tail is going to start getting in the way. When that happens, let's pinch it with your hand on the other side. And then just keep going. And last of the 6s here. I'm going to go under that bridge. And then 1 more 11. Okay. And so I'm done adding beads. Now I just need to weave in. And that's a really easy step. I've already got a needle on this one. This is my working thread. It's exiting from that last 11 I added, but I do need to put a needle onto my tail thread. So just really quickly, I'm going to do that. Here's another needle. Okay, I'm going to bring it up through the same bead. And that's just going to pull everything a little bit center. So that looks nice to me. I'm liking how that looks. So I'm going to go ahead and weave in. And just to do that, I'm just going to start with the tail. You could start with the working or the tail thread. And bring it through the next bead. So I'm exiting the 11. I'm going to go through the 6, go under the thread bridge here. Oops. And then come back up through that 6. So I went under that thread bridge that's just under that bead. Pull tight. I'm going to do this 2 more times, and that will lock it in. There's that one. And so what you'll notice is since the thread bridge is harder to see once the beads are really tight on top of it, so I don't really know I'm gathering it. So what I do is I kind of go in between the beads. See, I just went in between the beads themselves. I'm not looking for the thread bridge itself. I just know that if I'm in between those beads and then I pull, I know I caught the thread bridge. It just makes it easier. And then come up through the 6. And there you go. And I'm going to trim that. And pushing down with the scissors, pulling up with the thread. And if you have a burner, a lot of people like to use a burner, you can burn it, but I find it just disappears if I use tension when I clip it. All right, so the same step to get rid of this. We just go down through the next bead, under the thread bridge, come back up. It'll get a little thick. Not noticeable though. You won't really see it. And if it gets tight, occasionally that'll happen. Use a tool, just give it a gentle tug. There you go. And then I'm going between those beads so I can catch the thread bridge there. And here's another trick I want to share with you guys. So 11s are going to get really tight, but the 6s I can get through pretty easily. I don't want to put another pass through that 11 because I already had used the tool and I don't want to break that bead. So what I'm going to do is I know I just picked up this thread bridge. I'm going to go up through this one. I'm just going up through the adjacent 6. Because I picked up the thread bridge, it's not going to make my thread cross an intersection here. You can't even see it. It's locked under here, and I've crossed over to here, and it's invisible. And I do think I can get through this one more 11, and the reason I want to do that is because the tighter 11s, I feel like they're just a solid weave in. So I'm going to do that one more time. I went down through the 11, going under the thread bridge by going to between those 2 beads, the 2 8 beads below. Pull till that pops up, and then come up through the 6. And watch, the thread will just disappear. And some people do tie a knot underneath the bead. You can do that if you like to. I haven't done it before, but I think it totally works fine. And so pushing down. And there you go. So now the fun part. This is the charm spot for the earring, and this is the ear wire place. So I'll start with the charms. I think I want to go with these because it pulls in my yellow. And these come with the jump ring. But you remember the jump rings we had from before that we saved? I might use that instead. I'm going to look at it and see what I think. It's just a question of, do I want my jump ring to match the ring or the... It kind of doesn't matter. I'm going to go with the one that's attached to the charm because it's closest and it's touching. And then decide which one you'd like to be your front and your back. They're going to be the same, but if there's a side you like better, choose that one and attach your charm so that it faces that side. And locking that in place. There you go. That's super easy. And now I'm gonna grab some ear wires. I'm using these ear wires. Sorry, I should have shown those in the beginning. You can use any ear wires you'd like though. This is a pack that comes with 3 or 4 different colors. There's a lot of ear wire selection at Michael's though, so just choose whichever one you like. And now I am actually going to switch to chain nose pliers. It's just my preference. You can use whichever you like. And opening that loop. So I'm not using a jump ring here. I don't really need one, but when I do close this ear wire, I'm going to make sure that it's sitting in between the top 2 beads. Because once you close it, it won't move around anymore. It will a little bit, but it won't cross the beads. See it? Sorry, like that. So yeah, all done. And with time to spare, so what we could do is I could take some questions if you guys have them, and I do have another sample with all the 8s done, and I could just work that through again as far as we get.
Hi, Danielle, it's Carmi. I just want to let you know, probably the best thing we can do with our time remaining is doing the second row again, because it was a little bit harder for people to understand the first loop and then starting.
Yeah, that first loop is, that's a challenging spot. So definitely let's start that again. And I have another sample over here. I'm gonna bring that over. Here's one I was working on earlier. It's on gold. And I was curious, do you guys like the red or would you like to see a turquoise 11? I'm wondering if a turquoise 11 would be easier to see. Let me grab one really quick. The red is, I feel like they were blending together a little bit here. So let's bring this one. Plus I like it with the barley ivory. In case you guys are loving this color as much as me, it is one of my favorites. Let me get you the tube so you can see it. This one is, it's called barley ivory. And it's like, it looks a lot like the speckled oatmeal color. To me, anyway, that's how I think of when I see it. That's kind of pretty together. So yeah, let's go with that. Okay, and then I'll just continue with these yellows. Do you guys like the yellows, or maybe we'll go? We'll bring in. I could bring in some size 6 red, if that would be easier to see. Liking it? Yeah. That's brighter. Okay, so we'll go with that. So here's where we left off. Before, remember when we started this stitch, we had our tail thread and we had just started brick stitching around. And that's what's been done here. I've just gone all the way around. until there's not enough space for another bead. And I stopped there. And this is my working side, my tail side. So all you need to do next is pick up 4 size 11 beads and come down through that bead on the other side. So this is the one that we added first. It's the one the knot is hiding in. It's the one the tail's exiting from. And go ahead and pull down. And if it doesn't immediately form that little loop, just help it out. There we go. And so I need to get back up through all those beads again. So what I'm going to do is go around the component. So going through it. And then I'm going to come back up through the 8 and go through all 4 of those turquoise 11s. So I flipped it over so I can see. I'm on the other side now. I got through the 8, the first of the 4 11s. I'm going to continue through those 3. Looks like I only got through 2 there. Wow, do you guys hear that? It's starting to rain and wind. I'm going to close my window really quick. There we go. You're going to hear rain hitting my window. It's some Seattle audio for you. Coming down through the last 11 and the last 8 here. That's the one we added last in that ring. And then turn it over. And now I want to come back up, but only through the 8. I don't want to go through the 11s again. That's a good reinforced loop there. Okay, so what you're seeing here is we added the 4, you went through the 8, we looped around the component and came back up through that 8, went through all 4 of the 11s, then I went through the 8 again, around the component again, and back up through the 8. And now I'm ready to start building my ring around. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to flip it over and work this way. And I'm picking up an 11. And a 6. And then the thread bridges that are built between each of the beads, we're going to just go through the second one here, but this is one of those things where you got to kind of feel it and see how it looks when you start, depending on the size bead you're using and the spacing and placement that you're going for. But what I'm going for is a tight placement. I want it to touch each other. So I went through just that second thread bridge and pull tight and pick up another bead. And going through the next thread bridge. So that would be the third one. Come up through the 11. And it should sit right in place. And so I'm just going to keep going, picking up another 6. The next thread bridge. And oops, I started grabbing the wrong color here. I wanted to grab turquoise. There we go. And going through the next one. And so each time you add the smaller bead, it'll fix that kind of wonky side placement of the 6 that you just added before it. So each time you add one, it'll flatten. So another 6, next thread bridge. I'm going to go just a little bit faster now so I get lots of time to show you guys the end. And there's 3. I want to have a total of 6 to match my pattern. But every once in a while you'll get to a point where you've added a bead and you kind of have like a choice between, well, the other thread bridge looks like it's kind of far away. I could go to this, the one that's closer. The 6s tend to cover up about 1.5 spaces. So you can play with it and see what looks good to you. With this one, I've been going through the next one for every single time, and it's worked out pretty well. But I'm also, something else I'm doing that I should mention, I'm being picky with my beads. I'm selecting them, just kind of eyeballing for the same size. And if you do that, you won't get any surprises with spacing. Okay, and so again, last time we were just kind of feeling for the center point here. So the center point's a little different for me this time. These are different beads, so it's going to be right here. So I'm going to place the 6th 6-0 here. And now I'm going to add 3 11s. So here's my first 11. There we go. Here's one. This is my center. And again, before I go on, I'm just going to test it. That center 11 is my center point. I want to look at, make sure. Yeah, that looks good to me. So I'm going to keep going. And if again, if it was wrong, I would pull these stitches out and try to reshift them around. Okay, so there's the 3rd size 11 bead, and they're brick stitched pretty snugly next to each other there. And now I'm going to pick up 4 size 11s and go through the first one. So that's the first of the 3 we added here. I'm going to use my tool really quick. There we go. Okay, and so I need to go under the thread bridge that's below this 11 and then come back up through it. And the trick to do that, when you can't see the thread bridge anymore, is just to go between those 8s. You could even touch the component when you're going through the 8s. I don't know if you guys can see what I'm doing there, but that's how I'm able to do it so quickly, is because I'm not actually looking for the thread bridge at all. I'm just going between the beads and I know I caught it. And flipping it over. And now I need to go through that 11 and all 4 of those again. So delicately trying to find the spot there. And I'm going to continue through the 11 that's above it, just because that's what my needle wanted to do. Okay. And that's looking good. So I'm going to go through the 2. You guys, this color combo is really pretty. Okay, so I've got through the 4th one. I'm continuing on through the 11 below it. So I'm going to lay it flat so you can see. So remember, we added those 3, then we added 4, we came back, we went through that first one under the thread bridge, came back up through it, went through all 4. Now I'm going through that 3rd one again. And again, I need to go through the thread bridge. So in between the 2 8s. And pull tight, catches the thread bridge, flip it over. And now I just need to go through that 11. I don't want to go through the loop. I just want to go through that 1 11. And once I've got it, I'll show you guys the placement there. Okay, and then tighten. And all we have left to do is just finish the pattern. So the next in line is a size 6 seed bead. I ran out. I'm going to get a few more. I've only got those 2. Okay. And so grab another one. And going through this thread bridge here. That's the one over the 8s. And yeah, so there's the whole thing. I'll just go ahead and complete this really quick. We're about 9 minutes from the hour here. If anyone has any questions, I can answer them while I add beads here. But all I'm doing is just picking up a 6 and then picking up an 11 and just going around. And I want to get to that spot at the end where I'll show you guys that trick for how I measure. Can even do that here actually. And it's all about placement. Where do you want those beads to sit? So I know I need to have 6 beads on this side for it to match. And I've got 3 so far. I want to see what 3 more will look like. And it just helps you guess what thread bridge do I want to use as you're going. And this pattern has the serendipity of actually working with going through the next thread bridge, but a lot of patterns don't, and a lot of my own patterns don't. So that's why I'm sharing this trick with you guys, because it will help you, with your own designs. But with this one, don't really have to sweat it as much. You just go through the next one. I'm going to test it again. Yeah, okay. I'm hoping that makes sense. Just kind of a little extra idea that can save you a few minutes here and there. Okay, 2 beads to go. And here's my last one. The tail will start to get in the way, so you can just kind of pinch it with your fingers to lay on the back side while you're working here. And there's my last bead. So let's see how we're doing. We're at 6 minutes. Carmi, should I show weaving in one more time, or do we?
I think you haven't. If you just want to finish that one off, I want to let you know that while you were working, your sidebar has been filled with wonderful comments thanking you again for another class.
Oh,
and,
yay.
Someone just had a brilliant idea that I think you might want to try at some point, that if you made 3 loops, it would be such an amazing Victorian style pendant on a choker. So that could be something that you could try as well.
Oh, so like this, but then another one here. And another one here.
I think you could have one halfway down, so that you could use the 2 sides for your choker and the extra one for your charm.
Oh, I see. So like here.
Spin it.
Here, and then the chain.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That would work. That'd be very cool. I like it. See, you guys, you're sending me on more voyages in Beadland. So I'll definitely be posting that. I'm grabbing another needle really quick, guys, so I can show you the weaving in. Okay, so I threaded my tail with a needle. I have a needle on both my working thread and tail thread right now. And it's exiting from that 8 where we tied the knot, remember, in the first step. And I'm going to continue through that 11. And when you do that, it'll move the 11 a little bit, but don't worry too much about that, because when we move it back in, it'll go ahead and reposition itself yet again. So I went through the 6, I went through the 11, and now I'm going through the 6, going under the thread bridge that's in between those 2 8s. And when you see me flipping it over, it's just so I can see the bead from the back side so I can get through easier. And there we go. So I've taken the tail thread, come up through the 11, I went down through the 6, under the thread bridge here, and then came back up through the 6. Now I'm going to go through this 11. And if I think it's too tight, I probably won't try to come back up through that one. And I'll show you guys a trick for not having to repeat passes, too many passes through an 11. So come down through that, under the thread bridge here. So I'm just going between those 8s, coming up. And so the next step would be, go through the 11, but that 11 is really tight. So I'm going to go through that 6 instead. And because I've already gone underneath the thread bridge that's under the 11, the thread will lay right on top and you won't see any intersection crossing the thread. And so I'm coming down through this 11. And it's pretty tight too. So I'm going to do that same thing I did before. Yep. And then through the 6. Okay. And to trim it, I'll just take the scissors and trim by pushing down, pulling up. And that's all set. So we're pretty much at time. Do you guys want me to throw the ear wire and jump ring on here, or do we feel like we've got it and I can show?
I think you have it, Danielle.
Have it? All right. Okay.
1 minute to spare.
1 minute, always. Wow. It's like a race to the finish line. So I want to show you guys the next classes. And I have them here going in order. So next week, this is a spiral bracelet. And actually, I'll just switch back to the other camera so you can see the details of it. Okay, so this is a really fun design. And you'll see here that I've used 10s and I've used 8mm beads, but during class, I think we will have time to talk about different size beads and different size seed beads because this is versatile. I've done one of these with, with little crystals. I mean, there's so much you can do. So we will have a good time with this one. Then after that, ball chain. We're going to do stitching on ball chain. So 2 beginner versions that I'll go over. And then time permitting, I'm really hoping I'll get a chance to show you guys a really cool, it looks like a princess necklace, I think, but it's got a check glass drop, super duo beads. And all 3 of these are brick stitch on ball chain. So we're really brushed up on brick stitch now. So I thought it'd be fun to do something kind of next level. So I think this is going to be a really fun one. And then the pinnacle of brick stitch, the earrings. Let me grab these really quick. These are fun. And what makes them different than what we did today is that this is not a uniform shape. So when you're stitching on a uniform shape or, a round shape or a mostly uniform shape, you can the beads will just go right next to each other automatically. But on this one, we're going to do some tricks to make them stay uniformly placed. So that'll be the 3rd class in December. All right, and so on that note, I'm going to switch back and say hi to you guys again. So thank you so much for joining us for this class. Thank you for the idea for the necklace. I'm definitely going to make that and post it. And it's a little shot of our earring. And I'll see you guys next week. And for everyone celebrating Thanksgiving this week, happy Thanksgiving.